forward to spending some time with you, and it was a delight this morning to renew some acquaintances with many of you that have become my friends through the year. I must tell you, as important as all of you are to me, I've got a new best friend. And his name is Harry Potter. He and I are like that. We're planning on staying that way for the indefinite future. You know, I'll take it aside here for a little plug. Last night I saw the new movie, Deathly Hallows Part 1. Now, you can see this starting this Friday. It is a fantastic film. And I know that everybody's going to really enjoy it. It's just going to continue to build the enthusiasm and the emotional connection that visitors from around the world, people from around the world, have to the Harry Potter franchise. It's really something very, very special. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you today the journey that Universal Parks and Resorts has been on as we work with Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling and a number of other very important parties in making this experience as an adventure of visiting the world of Harry Potter the spectacular, entertaining experience that it is. But I thought before I went to that direct discussion, I'd have a little bit of conversation with you about where we as Universal Parks and Resorts came from, how we got to where we are today. It may surprise you to know that we have been in the theme park business for 95 years. No gasps. Nobody questioning the authenticity of that statement. Well, you should, because I admit it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But the reason I make that comment to you this morning is to set up a little bit of a story about how we came to be. You know, this slide talks about Carl Laemmle, who was the founder of Universal Pictures. Universal Pictures will be in business 100 years, 2 years from now. So in 2012, Universal Pictures will celebrate 100 years. And a couple years after the company was founded in 1915, it opened up a studio in Southern California that is now the home of Universal Studios Hollywood. Now, Carl was the guy in the passenger seat of this car, and he was quite an innovator, a real pioneer. So much so that he acquired a former chicken ranch located the other side of the Cuenca Pass out in Southern California, half a dozen miles from Hollywood. And he created a back lot. Back lot is, of course, where you do location-based filming for today, television and pictures, but back then for the silent movies. And he began the Universal Picture theme park business, if you will, if you'll allow me that latitude back then. I want to read to you an account of the opening day of this facility, and you'll see why I call it a theme park. Because it was at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 15th of March of 1915 that 10,000 people cheered loudly as Carl Laemmle, the 5'2" president of Universal Pictures, unlocked the gates to the main entrance of Universal City, which is, as I said, 5 miles north of Hollywood, on a 230-acre potato ranch, formerly a chicken ranch. And after announcing that there would be no long, drawn-out speeches or meaningless ceremony, Laemmle turned the key and pronounced the studio and his 2 days of inaugural activities complete, and the studio is now open. As he did so, thousands of onlookers who were standing in front of the gates behind the Universal band marched into the impressive new premises singing gaily, "The Star-Spangled Banner." An appropriate way to open a theme park in the United States, I would say. Here's the key part. In the front rank were the officers of Universal and newsmen from all around the country who were present for this historic occasion. They were followed by tremendous crowds that had gathered from all over Los Angeles. Many of them had camped overnight outside the Universal Studio gates. Put a footnote on that thought. We're going to revisit that a little later in my talk. The roads leading to Universal City were jammed with buses, streetcars, and automobiles as people continued to pour into the new complex. By the afternoon, the crowd had swelled to about 20,000 people, and they continued to flood in. Well, there you go. And as I said, hold that thought, because we're going to have a recurrence of that type of experience to talk about in just a few moments. So that's Universal City Studios out in Southern California. And here, to my absolute amazement, I looked at the archives, I was able to come up with the original television advertisement done on behalf of Universal Studios. So here it is, folks. much of an ad, and again I'm taking a liberty because televisions weren't prevalent in the United States until 1948. But nonetheless, given the fact that he's charging 25 cents to give in, which he had an ulterior motive besides offsetting costs, he figured it was a good way to let those silent film stars be encouraged by the boos for the villain and the cheers for the heroes, and get all the better performance out of them. So, a little bit of humor. Now on to the gist of what I have to say to you this morning. You know, the success that we had in giving tours in Southern California came to a head in 1964 when we opened up at Universal Studios Hollywood. You can see in this slide, the slide looks a little bit orange in those so-called glamour trams back then, but they were really pink and white, quite popular, and were needed to handle the crowds of people that were coming to the park every day wanting to take a tour of this television and motion picture factory. Now those trams today have given away to these super trams that haul 160 people around at one time, and do so time after time and time to hosting tens of thousands of people literally every day. That slide in the lower right-hand corner is there to this day. The Parting of the Red Sea, which Charlton Heston did, of course, in the Ten Commandments movie that Universal made years ago. And in this particular photo, in the top section, it shows the San Fernando Valley today. In the lower right-hand section, you see that very back lot that Carl Lindley started years ago. And to the lower right-hand, left-hand side is the gate to Universal, and of course, the iconic figure of Universal Studios Hollywood, none other than King Kong himself. Well, the success of our experience in Los Angeles and the worldwide popularity of film and television production, as well as people's fascination with the stars and the overall glamour of Hollywood, gave us the courage and the commitment to come to Orlando, Florida, and in 1990 opened up Universal Studios Florida. It was our first master plan park. Our creative consultant, who at the time did work with us side-by-side on the development park, none other than Steven Spielberg, helped us at the time by coining the phrase, which we use to this day, come to Universal Studios Florida and ride the movies. And, likewise, the success of Universal Studios Florida led to the opening of Islands of Adventure in 1999. Now, the thematic concept behind Islands of Adventure and the rationale behind the lighthouse is, as we all grew up, we read comic books and saw television shows and movies that we enjoyed so much, and common to them all were, of course, characters and stories. Well, whatever happened to those characters is the question that's asked in theme behind this park. And the answer, of course, is, well, they're all happily gathered here together at Islands of Adventure. And how else would they get here except by finding a lighthouse to direct them to this location? Islands of Adventure is, of course, the home of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which you'll have occasion to visit tomorrow evening, and I know you're going to have a real ball when you get there. But we didn't stop there. In 2001, we opened up our first international park, which is Universal Studios Japan, in Osaka, Japan. And this particular park, we believe, holds the record of any park for its first-year annual attendance of some 11 million people, and continues to be extremely popular to this day. And just this last spring, on Sentosa Island in Singapore, we opened up Universal Studios Singapore, which is part of the integrated Resorts World Sentosa, located on Sentosa Island, that has hotels, a gaming casino, and soon a water park and maritime museum. Along this journey, we have learned that our success is based on 4 different things. And the first of those is that we have to take our guests to extraordinary places. And Seuss Landing and Islands of Adventure would be an example of just that. We're amused by saying that we don't think there's a straight line any place in this whole land, which is typical of the writings of Theodore Geisel, the father, if you will, of the Dr. Seuss books, which are popular around the world. So again, we have to take our guests to extraordinary places. And when we get them there, we have to immerse them in stories that they couldn't otherwise experience. How about this one? Getting eaten alive by a T-Rex. That's what I call really being immersed. Beyond that, we have to do this in the most compelling and visceral manner possible. So here we're showing Spider-Man, which is of course 3D, very popular ride that we opened up with the opening of Islands of Adventure. And what makes it so visceral and compelling is here's Spider-Man in 3D pointing his finger right in your face as he has jumped onto the hood of the vehicle that you're in. And because it's on a motion base, it is recoiling in movement based on the fact that he's just jumped on it, and therefore you are in this real live action. You are completely immersed in it. And then finally, we have to do these 3 things in a fashion that delivers world-class guest service to our guests. We need an extraordinary guest experience. So we take these learnings and we couple them with the ability to tell a story. And I'm the first to tell you, as good as we believe we are at that, we've had some help. And it begins with Steven Spielberg, our creative consultant, as I said, back to the late 80s and into the indefinite future, our partner in creating these stories. He is one of the best. He's America's storyteller, in my view. But it doesn't stop there. James Cameron, recently of Titanic and, of course, Avatar fame, was the guy behind creating the film for our Terminator 3D attraction that we have both in Florida, Hollywood, and in our park in Japan. There's more. Jeffrey Katzenberg and his team of fantastic animators at DreamWorks Animation created the film for us in our Shrek 3D experience that we have again in 3 parks around the world. A whole new chapter, by the way, in the adventures of Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey.